since we're celebrating The Last of Us week here at Respawning, I thought I'd take this opportunity to rank my top 10 favourite The Last of Us moments before the release of The Last of Us Part 2 this coming Friday. There's not many things I enjoy more in this world than The Last of Us, but writing up a list feature is right up there, so needless to say, I'm excited to get into this. So sit back, relax, make sure you think of your top 10 to tell me in the comments below once you've watched this video. Right, let's get started. Note that before I do, it goes without saying that I'll be diving deep into spoilers for the first game, so if you haven't played that, what's wrong with you? Go play it. And it goes without saying that some, well, let's face it, all of the events are either extremely violent or depressing. So when I say greatest moments, I'm not trying to glorify these horrific events, rather shine a light on some incredible storytelling.
I've been on quite the adventure, little brother.
I reckon it's got something to do with that girl.
It's got everything to do with that little girl.
Well, go on then.
Number 10. Elian The Poster. This is such a small and poignant moment, which often doesn't get talked about when thinking back to The Last of Us. Quite early on in the game, Joel and Ellie are passing through an old rundown shopping area when Ellie notices a poster of a model before the outbreak. Innocently, she asks Joel, "That girl is so skinny. I thought you had plenty of food in your time." Not only is this a great world building and character moment, but also holds a mirror up to modern day society.
I thought you had plenty of food in your time.
Oh, we did. Some just chose not to eat it.
Why the hell not?
For looks.
That's stupid.
Number 9. I'm Not Her. In one of the game's most well-acted scenes, Ellie and Joel butt heads and get a lot of things out in the open. At one point, Ellie even says to Joel, "I'm not her," in reference to Sarah, to which Joel replies, "You are treading on some mighty thin ice." What follows is Joel, quite frankly, being absolutely nasty to the young girl he now sees as his daughter. Just watch the scene for yourself, it is so powerful. And although this is hard to watch, it just makes their moments when they come together later feel even more special.
What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel, but I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
Number 8. Henry's suicide. In one of the more horrifying moments of the game, after spending a good chunk of time with both Henry and his little brother Sam, the both of them are ripped away from us in the most emotional and devastating way imaginable. What really made this moment stand out was how quick it all goes down. In the space of about 1 minute, Sam turns after a bite and attacks Ellie, before Henry turns the gun on his little brother, then quickly doing the same to himself. Just like that, Joel and Ellie experience even more loss.
Shit!
Ellie? Ellie, are you alright?
Oh my god.
Sam?
Oh no.
Sam? Henry? Ellie, stay there. Henry? What have you done? I'm gonna get that gun from you, okay? Oh, okay, easy.
It's your fault.
This is nobody's fault, Henry.
It's all your fault.
Henry! Henry, no!
Oh my god.
Number 7. Joel wakes up. The Last of Us isn't your typical video game, because the harsh truth is that we're not playing as the hero. Although Joel is one of the best characters in video game history and very easy to relate to, there's no denying he's committed his fair share of bad deeds. When he wakes up after a near-death injury to find Ellie missing, Joel's paternal instincts kick in, and he has no problem with torturing and murdering his way through whoever gets in his way on his mission to save Ellie. I'd be outright lying if I didn't admit to loving every single second of this though.
Fuck you, man. He told you what you wanted. I ain't telling you shit.
That's all right. I believe him.
No, wait!
Number 6. The ending, Joel's revenge. Continuing the theme of Joel not being a good guy, I want to talk about the game's ending. Ellie confirms on more than one occasion that she's willing to do pretty much whatever it takes to help the Fireflies in finding a cure. And although being killed so they can dissect her brain is never directly talked about, it's pretty much obvious that Ellie knows her fate as a true hero who could save the planet by sacrificing herself. That is, until Joel goes full Liam Neeson and annihilates the entire Firefly organization in one gigantic final effort to not relive the tragic loss of his daughter. Rage-fueled adrenaline carries the player through the final onslaught, but the moment that really paints Joel as the villain comes when Ellie asks him directly what happened that day, and Joel lies to her face, despite it being very obvious that Ellie is aware of the truth. It's during this heartbreaking moment where the credits roll, and the relationship between these two excellent characters, which has been the driving force of the story to this point, ends on a sour note. It's brave, it's bold, and despite the controversy, I love it.
You're right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Number 5, Isha's story. What's amazing about this moment? Well, I say moment, but this is actually more of a story told over a short period of the game. What's brilliant though, is that Ish managed to become one of my favourite characters in The Last of Us, despite never meeting him or even knowing what he looks like. After being washed up at a sewer entrance, our protagonists come across an abandoned fishing boat, which contains a note from Ish. In this note, he explains how he stayed out at sea during the outbreak for as long as possible until he couldn't do it anymore. As you then progress through the sewers, we are treated to Ishi's entire story of how he met new friends through a mixture of collectible notes and locations in the sewers, such as homemade classrooms, living areas, and tragically, dead bodies. After finding out Ishi's story came to a devastating end after some infected managed to get in, you escape from the same threat through the front entrance of the sewers, only to find a giant notice saying, "Do not enter." It ends a short and tragic tale with a bit of comedy relief. Well, as close as you can get to comedy in this dark world anyway.
Fucking kidding me? Thanks for the warning on the other side, guys.
Number 4, Bill's partner. Bill is such an interesting character who I'd love to find out more about. In fact, I'm hoping we get the chance in the sequel to catch up with him, though I do fear where he may have ended up. First impressions of old Bill aren't great. He's abrasive, angry, and more than happy to live alone and lets you know he does not want to spend time with you. After spending a bit more time with Bill, he mentions in passing that he had a partner. Towards the end of Bill's level, you come across his partner hanging in the living room of an empty house. Although he's clearly cut up about it, Bill never drops his stonewall demeanour and goes on to cut the body down. It gets worse when you find a suicide note, which heavily hints the two were lovers and had ended the relationship badly. You then get the choice whether to hand the note to Bill or never know his partner/love committed suicide hating Bill's guts.
I reckon he didn't want to turn, so he...
Yeah, I guess not.
Number 3. Ellie's never the same again. I could have picked the entire winter section of this game here, as it's brilliant from start to finish, and is of course the first time we get to play as Ellie. What stuck with me more though, was how Ellie handles the trauma of what happened to her. After a narrow escape from being either murdered, eaten or raped, We'll never know, but let's face it, it was gonna be terrible either way. By David and the rest of his cannibal group, Ellie is never the same again. The way the game hammers this home is part of what makes The Last of Us a masterpiece. For hours and hours, the game has you pressing the same command over and over again to give Ellie a boost up to areas that you can't reach. In this moment, you go to perform this task you've done 1,000,000 times, but get no response from Ellie. As you look over to her, she's clearly lost in her own head and still trying to mentally recover from the life-changing experience that she went through. It's a pitch-perfect storytelling moment that can only work in the confines of video games, and one which only strengthens the relationship between Joel and Ellie after this. Number 2, the Giraffes. Literally seconds after the events of the previous entry comes the game's happiest and brightest moment. Once Ellie finally gets boosted up to the next level, she demands Joel catches up with her ASAP. Now, after hours and hours of living in this horrible world, your brain automatically expects danger. What Ellie finds though is something truly beautiful amongst all the darkness. A few wild giraffes have found their way to the building where Joel and Ellie are passing through, and for the first time in the entire story, the mood lifts. The music is calming, the colours are bright, and the game actually lets you stay in this moment for as long as you please, giving you sufficient respite from the flesh-eating monstrosities and constant death which have consumed the story up to this point. It's also from this point where Joel and Ellie are at their closest and most open with each other, a true turning point in the game.
Is this everything you were hoping for?
It's got its ups and downs, but you can't deny the view, though.
Number 1, the Prologue. I was really unsure about making this my top moment, mostly because it's almost like admitting that the game peaks in the opening 15 minutes, which isn't the case. The reason it's the most important moment for me is because the Prologue acts as the foundation the entire story is built on. It's the tragic loss of Joel's daughter Sarah, which happens in the most awful way imaginable, that sets Joel on this course. It's because of this opening that he's the way he is. Remember, the bad guy? But more importantly, it's also the reason we never really stop to question his actions. The Prologue is a masterpiece within itself. Watching the world crumble around you while you're powerless as both Joel and Sarah to actually do anything is so powerful. Then comes the acting. I say acting, by the way, and not voice acting, as the entire scene was motion captured with Troy Baker, Hannah Hayes, and directed by Neil Druckmann. What they achieve in this scene transcends video games and should be spoken about in the same breath as some of the greatest movie scenes in history. It's heavy hitting, it's emotional, and has brought everyone who has played it to tears. It's so powerful that the game will often subtly refer back to it during moments when Ellie is in danger, and as the player, you're instantly transported back to that first moment. In my opinion, it's the strongest storytelling moment in video game history, and deserves the top spot on this illustrious list.
Listen to me, I know this hurts me. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. 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 Please. 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 Please don't. Please.
Hey, don't leave just yet. Remember what I said at the beginning of the video. I want to hear your top 10. So make sure to let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you. And of course, if you want more Last of Us content, we're celebrating The Last of Us all week here. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel to be notified for when more Last of Us content goes up, or any other content for that matter. And don't forget, the written version of this top 10 list is available over at respawning.co.uk along with all the latest news and reviews. So make sure to head over there and check that out. As always, I've been Mikey. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.